Aliens Explored is a podcast exploring famous and obscure cases of UFO sightings, alien abductions and other strange events from both a believing and a sceptical perspective whilst keeping an open mind. I'm Stu Jackson, a professional actor and amateur ufologist with a particular interest in the crop circle phenomenon. I'll be debating that otherworldly visitations are real. The truth is out there.
And I'm Neil Kelly. I'm a professional actor as well and used to work for the military as an intelligence analyst. I'll be arguing from a more doubtful point of view. I mean, it's all a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
Friday, 25th of June was the deadline set whereby, under the terms of the $2.3 trillion COVID relief bill, a whole host of government, security and intelligence and military agencies were required to declassify and make publicly available all the information they have on UFOs. That day has come. Could this be the day when all is finally revealed? Join us for our first live stream session of Aliens Explored as we delve into the contents of the report.
And we are live here on this first ever Aliens Explored live streaming special. I'm excited. Are you excited, Neil?
I'm very excited. Very excited. Try something new. That's the.
Indeed.
Don't people say that's what you should do?
Do something that scares you every day, they say. This is fantastic, and already we've got people active in the chat. So very, very big welcome to Ty. Great to see you here. Paranormal Ben. We're going to be mentioning Ben in just a moment, in fact. We're so glad to see you here. And Paul has been active in the chat as well. Paul, in fact, gets quite involved in some of my other streams that I do. So it's really great to see you here for this one as well, Paul. And everyone else watching either now or in the future. Thank you so much for joining us in this very special, very exciting. It dropped yesterday. The Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon reports to Congress.
Yes.
Now, first thing we ought to do is give a bit of an apology, because we did say we were going to do this yesterday, didn't we, Neil?
Yeah, we kind of slipped up a bit. I mean, we hadn't taken into account the time difference that actually by the time we did our show over here in Britain on British summertime, it would still be quite early in the morning in the Midwest, and probably still before dawn in the far west. So we thought, that's the other. Although I know that was the final deadline. No one said it was going to be the day when they did it, but we thought we should at least give them up until the mark. We'll wait till. We'll have to put it back a day, and thank you for everyone for bearing with us.
Yes, it was a bit of a last-minute decision, and really well timed, because as it was, if we had have gone ahead as we'd planned, the report would have dropped while we were halfway through the stream anyway. So, it's much better timed like this. So yes, as Neil says, thank you everyone for your forbearance with this. So first thing we wanted to mention, and actually Ben has mentioned this in the chat already, about the theme song, because this is like the first time we've played it properly, isn't it, Neil? Yeah,
it's just been clipped before.
It has. So it is by a very, very good friend of ours, Darren Mafucci, who we do another podcast with, don't we, Neil?
We do. Very, very talented musician and composer, and a great role-play gamer.
He is indeed. So if you have an interest in role-playing games and want to hear Darren himself, then you can go over to talesfromthe20side.com and hear us chucking some dice and throwing shade at each other. I mean, especially
absolutely. And his character mainly punches things and people, which probably isn't the best thing for a musician to be doing. Someone who might rely on his hands for the fine art of creative music.
Most of the musicians I've known are a bit punchy anyway.
Well,
maybe it's just the people I hang out with. I don't know.
Yeah, do you hang out with drummers? I mean, they can kind of get away with.
No, musicians.
No.
That's the old joke, isn't it? What do you call someone who hangs around a load of musicians? The drummer.
Yeah.
No offence to drummers out there. Oh, and thank you, Ty. That's very kind. Ty does say Tales from the 20 Side is an awesome podcast. We think so.
We do.
We do think so. But the music that you heard, so our theme song is a track called Searching for Monsters that Darren has created. It's part of his album Lockdown, and you can find it by going to searchingformonsters.bandcamp.com. And I'm sure Darren will be very, very pleased to hear from you any thoughts you've got on that. So there we go. Paul has said,
Someone
Paul has
doesn't
asked, did you used to be an RP actor for the MOD?
Yes, I did until a couple of years ago. Do we know each other from that? Yeah, for about 7 or 8 years. Yeah, I did that job.
Yeah. Interesting. So, I'm wondering. You're now wondering who Paul is, aren't you?
Yeah.
Paul says he thought so.
Think of a couple of Pauls. Yeah, I've tried to disguise myself. This is my lockdown look, my lockdown beard, but obviously didn't fool Paul.
It's your mirror universe evil.
Yeah.
So the next thing we wanted to mention, I'm so pleased that an RP actor is a role play actor. Ty, it is absolutely yes, role play. Neil, tell everyone what you used to do as a role play actor for. Well, the stuff you can talk about at least.
The stuff I can talk about, I'll say in the blandest terms that for training purposes, there are certain situations that soldiers in certain roles have to learn how to do, and I suppose it's the same with police officers. It's best if a police officer, when they interview their first witness or suspect, that they're not doing it for real. They're actually practicing on someone. And it's the same with the military, that they get to practice certain scenarios. And a Paul who I worked for had been able to persuade the MOD that actors could do this a lot better than just what they previously used to do, was just find some squaddy kicking around the base who's just waiting for an assignment somewhere, and say, right, you come in here, here's a script, go in there and try and be convincing. They found it was actually better to get proper actors. He was very good at it. Thank you so much.
Paul definitely knows you then.
Paul definitely.
Although he says you're good at it.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he got me mixed up with someone else.
Excellent. Oh, and Ty's brother did Northern Ireland training with actors simulating riots. I've actually done a little bit of that myself with the MOD, sort of more group exercises.
I mean, they quite often use squaddies for that because they can get away with beating them up. When they're practicing snatch squads and things, which you probably can't do so much with a delicate actor who's going to go and complain to Equity if you rough him up too much. So this was more. It was more a kind of verbal interchange. We called it management training.
Yeah.
in inverted commas.
Fantastic. So moving on to first thing. Sorry, I'm not even gonna segue. I'm just gonna change subject, which is not very professional, but there we go. It's really good to see Ben here because I have a bit of a correction to make. So a few episodes ago, we mentioned Ben, and I mentioned about him being a professional paranormal investigator. Now I stand by my statement because when I was saying a professional, I meant professional in the techniques he uses, in his style, in his diligence, should we say. But Ben did message us and say that as a correction, he does have a day job. Doesn't do the paranormal investigation for financial. So not a professional on that level, but I still stand by professional. But
I think as
Ben
actors we can
qualify that.
Yeah, as actors we can understand the concept of being professional and not getting paid for it.
Well, yeah, I understand the concept of people trying to get away with not paying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Payment in kind sometimes.
Yeah. But Ben has been so kindly sent us some gifts. So obviously Ben runs Central Utah Paranormal and sent us some lovely fridge magnets and stickers, which I've still got yours, Neil. Because we haven't seen each other yet because it's still locked down.
Yeah.
Isn't it, here in the UK?
It is pretty much.
You've had your second injection now, haven't you, Neil?
A long time ago. Yeah, I had my first one in February, second one in the beginning of May, I think.
Right. I've just had my second one
April.
brought forward. It's going to be Monday now. Monday afternoon,
Nice.
I got the second one. So excited. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that you would have yours before me because you are a lot older than me, aren't you?
Yeah, I got bumped up the priorities, yeah, because
Retirees.
because of my
and all
advanced
that.
years, yeah. I'm a vulnerable adult. Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't look older than me. That's the difference.
I've looked after myself. I moisturise.
No amount of moisturiser in the world's going to help me, I don't think. But there we go. Now, the next thing we wanted to talk about today, before we get into obviously it's a big event, this, our first ever live stream. But before we get into the report, wanted to give you all an amazing opportunity for a competition and to win actual prizes. Now, it comes down to our artwork for the show. There it is in all its glory.
Unmodel it a bit.
Yes, it's on our
it,
T-shirts as well, but it's there on screen. Now, this artwork, we've been using it for a little while now. It was created for us by Monstrous Art. And hello, Ed. Welcome to the party. Lovely to see you. So yes, this artwork was done for us by Monstrous Art, and you can find more of his work on his Patreon, which I've put a link down below, and also on his Twitter feed and Facebook. All those are down below, so you can find Si's work. But yeah, he did this for us, and we absolutely love it, don't we, Neil?
We really do.
I mean, he gave us more hair than we've actually got, so that's,
It was very flattering.
that's
Based on pre-lockdown me, without the beard.
Without the beard, and me without having recently filmed where I had a beard because I had to take it off for a recent shoot. But there we go.
Right.
But a key part of I absolutely love the artwork, but a key part of it is this amazing chap in between us, this grey alien looking quite grumpy. So here is your competition, everyone. The grey alien, we don't quite know why he's looking grumpy. Maybe it's because we've ignored him.
Do you think he's looking grumpy? I think he's looking a bit, I don't know, a bit sort of confused. As someone's asked him an awkward question, and he's thinking, how can I put this?
Yeah,
that's my take on it.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. And hello to the Jaunty Goblin as well. Isn't the art absolutely amazing? We were just saying it's by Monstrous Art. And here is your competition to everyone watching and everyone listening in the future. This grey chap in between us needs a name. We have never given him a name, have we, Neil?
We haven't, no. It didn't occur to me.
So there he is.
That's not my first thought. If I see an extraterrestrial, I'm not thinking, oh, I wonder what his name is.
Well, grey aliens have been given names in the past. Paul being one of them. Yes. For the movie Paul, of course. Then you've got Skinny Bob is the subject of quite a famous video from Russia. You've had was it Grandpa Grey from the Stan Romanek video? So it is quite common for greys to have names. So what we want you all to do is, you'll see there's an email address below, aliensexplored@gmail.com. You have until the 25th of July. And what we want you all to do is email us with what you think this alien should be called. Now, Neil and I both allegedly have a sense of humour, don't we?
Apparently, yes. I've been learning humour from a book.
So funny names are probably going to be quite good. But come the 25th of July, when the competition closes, well, come the 26th, we will be picking our favourite. And whoever's name we pick is going to win a T-shirt, just like ours.
Yay.
Isn't that fantastic?
I think it is.
Yeah. Do you know what? There are only 4 T-shirts like this in existence in the world. Now, obviously, I have one. You've got one, haven't you, Neil? And the other 2 are currently winging their way across the pond to a couple of special friends in America. They know who they are. So you can be the 5th person. Well, this is it. We need a 5th person to have a T-shirt. So give us your best name. I'm gesturing the wrong way for that alien on that side. And yeah, what you think his name is. Like I say, send it into aliensexplored@gmail.com.
And we'll judge according. We'll judge according to the usual criteria. Will we just depend on how we feel at the time?
Yes, whatever our favourite is.
Totally arbitrary.
It is a bit. Yeah. But no, we want to hear your best ideas and whatever tickles our fancy, really. Now, if it happens that more than one person submits the same name and that name wins, it'll be whoever submitted it first. So get your ideas in quick. That's my advice. So there we go. That's our competition. We'll be reminding you of the competition later on in this live stream for anybody who joins us a little bit later on. So shall we start talking about this here report then, Neil?
This thing we've come to talk about.
This thing we've come to talk about now. I've already started highlighting bits and making lots and lots of notes. You can probably see around the margins. I've been going through this with a fine-tooth comb. How about yourself?
Well, I've focused on the executive summary, but no, I have read the whole thing. I was surprised it was fairly short. It's only, 9 pages or something?
It's 9 pages. That includes the cover page.
Including the cover page. Apparently, isn't there? It's marked unclassified, but I gather that there is a classified annex that we will never be allowed to see.
Yes, that's very true. They've basically produced 2 reports, one for the public and one with the actual real information in it. Which kind of makes the unclassified one a bit pointless, really, doesn't it?
I'm not so sure. I'm perfectly prepared to believe that the classified annex contains details of military capabilities that they want to keep classified that cannot be released. I don't think it's going to say, well, actually, we've got this hangar out in Area 51 where we've got all these crashed spacecraft or spacecraft we've shot down and all these dead or captured ETs. I don't think it says that. I know we'll never see it, so I could stick my neck out here. But I bet it doesn't say that in the classified bit. I bet it's just military information. that we're not supposed to know. Much of what's in the preliminary assessment is what was anticipated. I think the main thing it says is that of all these things we've spotted in the sky, it wasn't us, Gov. It's not us testing some kind of new technology. This is all stuff that we just don't know.
Well, yeah. Now, just to come back to one point you're making about us never seeing it, isn't there a statute of limitations or something like a 50-year period where it has to be released after that? I think there is on most
America,
things, all documents have to become declassified after a period of time. Might be 30 years. I'm not sure.
Could be
because that's how we know about Project Blue Book.
I mean, if all it contains is military capabilities, then yes, in 30 years' time, that's going to be fairly moot, isn't it? No one's going to learn anything about the capabilities of the US Air Force or the US Navy by reading a 30-year-old document.
Would you say that? I mean, you look at the stealth fighter projects. I mean, they were kept under wraps for a long time, weren't they? Well over 30 years.
Yeah, I imagine there are still some parts of it that are still classified. And the Jaunty Goblin has commented, when you look at the equivalent UK report from 10 to 15 years ago, likewise has a redacted section. Mostly, here's how the Russians, Chinese, etc., might be manipulating what the phenomenon is. So,
well, yes, you've got an alien behind you.
Yeah, he likes to get involved in this kind of thing.
He does. I think you ought to introduce him to the to the viewers.
Hey, Scaramanga, you coming over to say hello? Here he is.
Great name. There he is.
There's Scaramanga.
Scaramanga. I get to see Scaramanga quite a lot because he does get involved in.
He does get involved. I think he likes to go out this window. He has a favourite window to sit on. However, there is a kid who lives next door but one who every day she will go out and she will start playing something, and then the next thing you hear is her crying, and this happens. This happens on a regular basis. So I shut the window when she was crying. Let me just open it for him on the off chance.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah, just a little bit.
No worries. And Ty, it is an awesome name for a cat. Neil and I both James Bond fans, aren't we? So we're both James Bond fans.
We at the time we got him, we got him thinking this is going to be a working cat because we were overrun with mice. It was before we had our kitchen redone. You go in the kitchen, you turn on the light, and it'd be like a stampede. There'd be mice scattering everywhere. There were droppings everywhere. And thought, well, we'll get a cat. We tried all kinds of things. We put down traps. We used the sonic things that you plug into the mains. We thought, well, if we get a cat, we don't want to kill these mice. We just want the presence of a cat to deter them, to make them feel unwelcome and to not come into the kitchen. And we named him Scaramanga, hoping that it will be an ironic name, that we were naming him after a professional assassin in the Man with the Golden Gun. Actually, I haven't checked how many nipples he's got. However, it turned out it wasn't ironic, and he is actually a ruthlessly efficient killer of mice and birds. Or he was. He's 11 years old now, but in his younger years, he was quite deadly.
Well, I think it's safe to say he probably not only has a third nipple, but a fourth, a fifth, and a sixth one as well. As cats tend to have.
Male cats, like male humans, have redundant nipples, do we?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
I guess.
Anyway,
I'll have a feel.
We've digressed.
We always do, don't we?
It wouldn't be Aliens Explode if we didn't digress a bit.
Yeah, yes, he's doing well for 11. Yeah.
He absolutely is. He's a lovely, lovely cat. So we were talking about this report as a generalisation then. And yes, you're right. It doesn't give us any information that we kind of didn't expect. I think you said quite rightly. It's like, well, it's not us, which is what we would have expected. But more than that, it is quite telling in that, it says, okay, some of these things can be ruled out by sensor glitches. Some of these things can be ruled out as, misidentified or, natural phenomena or misidentified normal aircraft. But it does also say in this report that there is another miscellaneous group. And that's quite tough, because if it's not a natural phenomenon, if it's not a man-made craft from the USA or from a foreign country, well, that only leaves kind of one option to my mind. Well, if it's neither of those two things.
Yeah, many American politicians and military people, including Senator Marco Rubio, have said that they're far more concerned that these vehicles, which seem to be able to violate American airspace with impunity, they're more concerned that they might belong to a terrestrial rival like Russia or China, who has developed this breakthrough technology that they can't meet. They've basically rendered the US Air Force and actually the defense of America redundant because they're so far ahead in technology. As we saw in the first Gulf War, when America led the liberation of Kuwait from Iraqi forces, we can see what happens when you have a set-piece battle between two sides and one of them has got slightly more advanced technology, who's one generation ahead. It was a massacre. So, they're very concerned about that. There's also, I think we need to emphasize that the US military refer to them as not as yet unidentified flying objects, but unidentified aerial phenomena, which, for instance, the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis, that is a phenomena. It's not an object. It's not something flying, but it is something you see in the sky that could have...
well, yes, that's right. And a comet, which is falling, it's not flying. Yeah.
Yes,
I think UAP is a more accurate term. Definitely.
It's more accurate because it's vaguer, ironically. It covers anything in the sky, whether it's a flying object, a falling object, or a trick of the light.
Well, yes, absolutely, which, UFO doesn't include. Paul has made an interesting statement that Paul can state quite categorically there are no alien bases in the UK, otherwise he's not very good at his job. Oh, that sounds like a challenge.
Well, we have talked about aliens beneath the sea. So, do we have any in our territorial waters, or are we talking the middle of the Pacific or the Mariana Trench?
We've talked about those. We've talked about the sort of hollow Earth theory about maybe there's underground bases. We talked about the underground bases, of course, with. Oh, it was only a couple of episodes ago. The chap who went down and had a firefight in an underground base with aliens, allegedly.
Yeah. Oh yes, we talked about the one in Rendlesham.
Well, it's not an alien base; it's an MOD base where there was a UFO encounter or UAP encounter, I suppose. Yes, which was what was that 20 years ago?
Yes, something
like that. We talked about that a few episodes ago in some detail. Ty has asked an interesting question. Is there much of a UFO culture in Russia and China? I don't know, in all honesty. Given the nature of both those countries, it'd be hard to tell.
Well, a hobby that is popular in Britain that is really not understood in other countries is plane spotting. That people have been arrested in countries like Greece because they've been noting aircraft serial numbers and things. And the Greek authorities, when they arrest these people, find it very hard to believe that you're just doing this as a hobby. This is information that would be useful to an intelligence agency. I imagine it would go down even worse for you in somewhere like Russia or China or Iran or Saudi Arabia if you were taking too much of an interest in what happened to be flying in the sky. But I suppose being out at night looking for lights in the sky, that's not quite. It's not the same as nestling down by an airfield with a pair of binoculars and a notepad, is it?
Yes, this is true, and you're absolutely right, Paul. Experimental planes do exist. In fact, we had an amazing interview with one of our listeners, Barry, who we referred to him as, who gave us some real educational notes on experimental planes. Worth going back and listening to that particular episode.
We did also talk about something called the Robertson panel, which is a panel, this is information release after 50 years, that was set up that they would, in order to cover up the testing of experimental aircraft, they would release stories about UFOs. The American government released stories about UFOs, and then when people started talking about how they'd seen something strange in the sky, they would be given psychiatric care. So you're or just dismissed as a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracies. Did you read about the conspiracy theory about tinfoil hats?
A conspiracy theory about tinfoil hats in particular.
I think there was always this story that people wear these tinfoil hats to stop the government using mind control on them with various radio frequencies. You don't want to let them in, so you wear your tinfoil hat. And so someone at, I think it was Stanford University, did an experiment to see if a tinfoil hat would actually work. And what they found was that certain frequencies are blocked by a tinfoil hat, but other frequencies, and coincidentally, they're frequencies used by the military and intelligence services, are amplified if you wear a tinfoil hat. So I think tinfoil hats have gone out of fashion a bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's conductive material, isn't it? So
yeah, that's it. It will reflect certain frequencies but amplify others. So yeah. Anyway, we're getting a bit off the topic.
We are
as we are wont to do, as is our bent. My big question was about this report was why? The US government wants to give the economy a boost. They're going to. It's the biggest state intervention in the economy since Roosevelt's New Deal in the 1930s, which started to bring America out of the Great Depression. Why was there this requirement in there to release information about UFOs? What have UFOs or UAPs got to do with economic recovery? And I have two possible theories. One of them is that someone just thought, this is my chance. This COVID recovery bill is 5,500 pages. I can slip something in, and I bet they won't read it, and they'll sign it off, and then I'll show them what they've done, and they'll have to release this information. I thought that was a possible one. Donald Trump, notoriously short attention span, relies on other people. Well, 5,500 pages. If I went on holiday for 2 weeks and spent all my time, all day, every day, reading books by the pool, I wouldn't read 5,500 pages. So this thing was rushed through But what I think is more likely, I'm thinking that this bill was put through at the fag end of Donald Trump's presidency. And for our American listeners, fag end in England means cigarette butt. It means the dying days of his presidency. It was it 27th of December 2020? The election had already been lost or stolen, if you prefer. He put this bill through, $2.3 trillion, and of course, all credit to his administration for doing that. But actually, most of the credit is going to go to the incoming Biden administration, who are going to implement it. And suddenly lots of people who previously might have voted for Donald Trump are going to get a big handout or a big help, big assistance, all sorts of assistance from a party, from a government of the Democratic Party, which might change the way they vote. So I do wonder if someone from the Trump administration just thought, let's put this thing in as a stumbling block. Let's put this clause in that requires our most secretive of secret agencies to release their most secret information by a certain deadline, and it will cause all sorts of ructions, which will either stop the bill in its tracks or delay it until such time as Donald Trump can regain the presidency. That's my theory, anyway.
That's an interesting. So to address your first theory first. Hello, Captain Quinn. Absolutely aliens. It's always
hey,
aliens.
Captain Quinn.
Yeah. So to address your first theory, I'm going to call shenanigans on that one because it wouldn't be one person reading this document. You know, you're going to have a team of 30, 50, 100 people, however many is needed. It's so a 5,500 page document. It can easily be achieved, and you throw people at it. So sneaking something in, I don't think is going to happen. And the fact that it was picked up so quickly by the media as well, instantly they're like, "Oh, look what's in this 5,500," shows that these things get picked up really easily. So I'm going to sort of.
So if that was what they were attempting, it failed spectacularly and immediately.
Yeah, I'm going to piss all over that theory straight away. Now your second one is quite interesting, but I think there's. I agree up to a point. I think it was deliberate, but do you remember our discussion about Hayam Eshed?
Yeah.
And he said, this was an episode we talked about him in particular. He was the Israeli minister for Minister for Defense.
He was an Israeli general who became head of the Israeli rocket program.
Yes. Now he has come forward and said that all this is absolutely true. That the governments of the world are in contact with these aliens and
the Galactic Federation. He said
the Galactic Federation, and he said in particular that Donald Trump wanted to announce this publicly to the world, but he was stopped. So this would seem like an opportunity to kind of go, you wanted to stop me, well, I'm going to do it anyway, and you can't stop me from making it public because that would mean stopping this aid for the COVID. So I can definitely see that as a theory. It was alleged, yes, Captain Quinn, stopped by the Galactic Federation. This is what Hayam Eshed has claimed. And it's worth going back and listening to our Hayam Eshed. It's worth going back and listening to all our episodes, of course. But the Hayam Eshed one in particular is quite a fascinating, because he's a really credible person who has come out with some, even I would say, outlandish claims. But yes, it really interesting. And thank you for your comments about my glass there, Ty. I do like a handled beer glass. I mean, it's only squash that's in here, but yeah, because it's hot.
Stu feels he has to point out, he's not necking beer while working.
I once did drink alcohol on a live stream, and it ended up really, really embarrassing. I felt I needed to apologise to a lot of people after that, so I don't do that anymore. So I reckon before we get into the nitty-gritty detail of this report, shall we give everyone a quick reminder about our competition for all those people who have
some people have joined us since.
Yeah. So as a reminder, we have our Aliens Explored artwork, which you can see there from the amazing Cy Monstrous art, and his details are below. If you want to see more of his work, if you want to commission him for any work as well, I'm sure he'd be very, very pleased to see you, Simon Brumat. Lovely, lovely chap. But we were saying earlier that the grey alien in between us, this chap here, you can see him a lot better there, he does not have a name. We've never given him one. So we are running a competition until the 25th of July this year to give him a name. All you have to do is email us at aliensexplored@gmail.com. Give us your ideas for a name for this. Yeah, he is a grey alien, but give us a name, and we will pick whichever one we think is the best. You know, it might be the funniest or the most touching or whatever. Just blow us away with your ideas, and the winner will receive a T-shirt like ours. Very, very
Just
exclusive.
model it here.
You cannot buy these T-shirts. That's it. Yeah. With our ugly mugs on it. They are called grey aliens, that is the classification, but we want this particular chap to have his own individual name. So there we go. So yeah, email us in with that one by the 25th of July. We did mention earlier that if we get two people come up with the same name and we like that name and that name wins, it will be whoever has emailed us first with that name that wins the T-shirt. So do get your ideas in as quick as possible. And also, you can enter as many times as you like, so come up with as many different names as you want. We'll be happy to see them all. So there we go. That's the competition. So shall we get into some of the nitty-gritty detail of this report then, Neil?
Let's do that, shall we?
So the first thing I'm going to point out, right, it's on the cover page itself. I've highlighted it and made my notes, right? It says it is a preliminary assessment. So it's not the actual report then. Oh, Jaunty Goblin, it has been lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. This will be available, obviously, on video on demand on Twitch for a couple of weeks. We'll be putting it on YouTube as well. And, of course, we'll be doing an audio version on our usual podcast stream. But thank you for joining us. Yeah, so preliminary assessment. So it's not the actual assessment anyway. That would explain why it's only 9 pages, including the cover sheet.
It does kind of hint that there's more to come, doesn't it? That
Yeah.
This is just what we're going to, just what we can. This is what we've had time to put together in
180 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if that's all they can do in 180 days, they want sacking, because I can write a more lengthy report than that.
Yeah.
But
So
there
where
we
do you
go.
want to? I want to talk about the methodology they use, because they insist that they standardized the method for reporting UFOs or UAPs in about 2004, which
yes. Now that's an interesting. I'm going to come onto that one. Let's go through page by page.
Okay.
So, is there anything on page 2 that has jumped out at you?
Only the sheer number of agencies who have been required to input into this.
Oh yes, the oh no, it says who it's. Oh yeah, from the USDA, the DIA, the FBI, the NRO, NGA, NSA, Air Force, Army, Navy, Navy ONI, DARPA, FAA, yeah, so on and so on and so on and so on. There are quite a lot of agencies, but to be fair, if it's going to be a substantive report, not just a preliminary one, but a substantive report, then yes, you would hope that they're going to get as much information from as many different places as possible.
And I assume, and this is from watching Hollywood movies, that these government agencies, and especially intelligence and security agencies, don't like cooperating with each other. So they might have standardized the method for reporting these phenomena, but they won't be sharing it with each other. They haven't really standardized, but like I say, we'll be coming onto that one. That's on page. Because it doesn't say that all these agencies input into one standardized system for reporting.
Well,
UAPs.
they say they don't. I'm gonna challenge that, but like I say, that's page 3. On page 2 though, There's two things, well, three things actually that strike me. First of all, they're saying that this is a report, an intelligence assessment of the threat posed by unidentified aerial phenomenon. So it's only a report on the threat, not a report on unidentified aerial phenomenon.
But most of those agencies, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, that's what they're concerned with. How much of a threat does this pose to our shores and to our operating capabilities?
But let me put forward a hypothetical situation to you. Let's say that the American government is in fact in constant contact with an alien civilization who are visiting, that it is a friendly allied agreement, a sharing of information, a sharing of technology and all the rest of it, but it is secretive. They would not be considered a threat, ergo they would be left out of this report.
I suppose that would include them. That would depend on the nature of the cooperation, wouldn't it? If it's entirely, if we're in contact with beings from another world, but it's entirely on their terms because they can just switch us off any time they want, then yeah, there is a threat there. But they'll also be reading this document and saying, "Wait a minute, you think we're a threat, do you?"
The point I'm making is that my understanding, when the COVID bill was generated, they didn't ask for a report on the threat posed by UAPs. They asked for a comprehensive report on UAPs.
Yes, but I think military agencies, anyone who's dealt with the MOD or Department of Defence, will know that they're just where they will always come from that point of view of what's the threat.
They have moved the goalpost, though. They've interpreted what they've been asked for, which means it's a bullshit document. They've just interpreted it how they wanted to.
That's their go-to perspective. That's how they will always view everything. You ask them about the weather, they're going to say, well, they'll talk about how they're not going to talk about whether it's a nice day. If you ask the Air Force, they're going to talk about what effect it will have on their operational capabilities, on the range of their bombers, and
There's a danger in making that kind of narrow. Oh, it must be a threat.
Okay.
We go.
I'm not getting as it's not tickling my antenna the way it's tickling yours. It's what I would expect from a military organisation.
Fair enough. But moving on then, it's also to submit an intelligence assessment of the progress of the Aerial Phenomena Task Force, Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force. So there is already a task force dedicated to dealing with unidentified aerial phenomena under the DDI. DOD, sorry. Under the Department of Defense.
Wasn't there an agency set up that was then disbanded and then resurrected?
There's been a number over the years, Project Blue Book being one of the most famous ones.
But because they've standardised what they call the data set, the reporting incidents occurring is only from November 2004 to 2021. So nothing before that.
Well, that's the thing. They haven't standardised it. It's not. I mean, this report even says they haven't actually done it. They talk about it, but yeah, Majestic 12, as Ty says, that's another one. Majestic 12 haven't been around for a long, long time though. And no, I get that Captain Quimmer's comment about, ask the Air Force about weather, and they'll tell you about, how it affects air traffic and procedures. And I get that, but my point is that the COVID bill clause just asked for a report about UAPs, didn't ask for specifically about threat analysis. Yeah. Threat analysis would form part of that, I agree, but there is a much, much wider scope there. That's my thinking. And yeah, I want to know who the UAP task force are. How long have they been operating?
They would standardise the data collection method or the data set they're collecting for the same reason that the health service will standardise its collection, the police, that everyone. But it's so that you've got standard data that you can search. But what it does on the one hand, no, let me just finish what I was saying. On the one, if you standardise your data, for one thing, it's every incident has been reported in the same way. It has the benefit of it makes sure that everything that you think might be relevant to such an event is recorded. You're not just relying on the pilots or whoever spotted it. You're not just relying on their memory that there's something that they didn't think was relevant, so they didn't mention it. But on the other hand, by standardizing it, you might be cutting out there might be extra stuff they wanted to include, but there's nowhere in the form for it to go.
Okay,
that's what I'm.
Yes. Joe, I know
standardized reporting.
You're really focused on this standardized reporting thing. So let's jump ahead to page 2, and we'll come back to page 2 because there's more on that I want to talk about.
Okay.
But yes, they do talk. So it says in the report that there's a limited amount of high quality reporting, that it isn't standardized, that as you rightly said, they talk about. It was the Navy, wasn't it, that started standardizing in 2004. That the Air Force have sort of picked that up a little bit as well. So therefore, this report is only focusing on reports from 2004 to 2021. Well, how bloody convenient is that? Because what that ignores is literally hundreds of years of reports.
A question comes up here from, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, from Fomiga. Do they look at it from a global perspective, or from Thai? Do they look at it from a global perspective or just as a national one?
We can answer that. It is a national one because of the departments involved. They are with national security.
But for instance, if a US Navy ship spotted something when they were in the South China Sea, that would.
Oh yes, it would still be. They would still be reporting it.
Yeah.
Because it is the US Navy that's reporting it. So it's national. Yeah, it could be international. It could be an international report made nationally.
And the CIA is international. In fact, they're not supposed to operate within the borders of the United States. So, if they're reporting on it, of course they're going to be reporting on. But I guess, national in the broadest sense that it's American agencies. It's not going to be anything that's reported.
I've just checked. The CIA are not amongst the agencies that have contributed to this report.
Ah, right. That looks like
does not include the CIA. But let's look at this standardized reporting then. So the first question I'm going to ask, they're saying there is no standardized reporting. All right. So what the hell have Project Blue Book been doing in all this time? What the hell were Majestic 12 doing in all this time? What's this UAP task force? What have they been doing if they've not generated any standardized reporting? They talk about the limited amount of reports. Limited? You had Lieutenant Ryan Graves talking on TV on 60 Minutes not weeks ago, talking about a UAP every single day over a period of years. And they're talking about a limited amount of reports. In fact, they mention only 100 odd, just over 100 reports. What's happened to all the rest of them then? They talk about no high quality reporting. What, do pilots not count as high quality reporters then? Do police not count as high quality reporters? What would count as high quality? Sorry, I'm getting quite passionate about it. But they say the limited amount of high quality reporting on UAPs hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions. What do they want? You've got pilots reporting daily. You've got police reporting on a very regular basis. So what are they they're talking bullshit in this report. Absolute bullshit.
Well, maybe someone will leak something. So yes, they're claiming they haven't recorded the data, so they don't have to report it. And that has bin shown to have happened under freedom of information requests as well, that you ask for a certain amount of information or a certain on a certain subject, and the response is, oh, sorry, we don't have any data on that. We don't collect data. And actually, that's not true.
Yes, and Ty makes an excellent comment there. The pilot who chased the Tic Tac UFO that we watched and talked about in one of our episodes. Yeah, and Captain Quinn talks about the astronauts who have reported UAPs. What would count as high quality to these people, really?
Well, they say we were able to identify one reported UAP with high confidence. In that case, we identified the object as a large deflating balloon. So what's their definition of with high confidence? That they could actually work out what it was and dismiss it as terrestrial in origin?
Well, I mean, you're saying that there's a number of what I'm considering smoking gun paragraphs in this report. And one of them is right here on page 3. Straight under where they've talked about, we're only going to look at reports from 2004 to 2021 because that suits us better. It says, and I'll read the paragraph out in full. Most of the UAP reported probably do represent physical objects, given that a majority of UAP were registered across multiple sensors to include radar, infrared, electro-optical, weapon seekers, and visual operation. So you're not talking about, a flare from, Venus or any crap like that.
A light in the sky.
Majority, most of the UAP reported, are physical objects. Wow, that's quite damning in of itself. I'm going to go back to page 2 now. I'm determined to get this out. Right. They say there's an assumption that various forms of sensors that register UAP generally operate correctly and capture enough real data to allow initial assessments. What do they mean by real data, as opposed to what sort of data?
Yeah, you'd have to ask them that, I guess.
That strikes me really strongly, that they're giving themselves a clause to just arbitrarily say, yeah, we don't consider that real data.
Well, I suppose it's real data if they've got a recording of it on their radar. That's real data. If it's just someone saw something and they've got, it wasn't seen on. If it's been picked up by a sensor and recorded, then say, yeah, that's real data. We can say this thing was seen here and it moved to there. Whereas if it's if they don't have that info, if they've only got an eyewitness account, then I don't know.
So if I've seen a stealth bomber, but it's not shown up on radar or it's not been recorded on radar, I haven't really seen it. Is that what we're saying?
That's what they'll tell you. Yes, nothing to see.
Okay. So that's a bullshit statement. So all they have to do is lose the records, and it doesn't exist anymore. Convenient.
Yeah.
Very convenient. There is another bit on page 3. So they said that this unique tailored reporting process was required to provide sufficient data. As you say, this standardized process. I'm going to come back on that. And I agree with you, Ben, it is such bullshit. But so this standardized tailored reporting process. The trouble is, we are talking about phenomena or objects that are not standardized of themselves. They meet and appear in so many different. There's so many different kinds of UFOs or UAPs out there, from orbs and plasma balls through to physical craft. How can you have a standardized reporting procedure for something that is not standardized?
Well, it's I mean, I don't know what this. I mean, but a standardized report is going to have date, time, duration, location.
Are you saying you're not getting that already from all these pilots and police officers?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. But that's what I mean is that at a mundane level, a mundane administrative level, they're making sure they're ticking all the boxes about what was seen and where and what it looked like and how big and how fast. And I assume.
Is it that, on this report they've put the time before the date and they should really be putting the date first?
It probably,
So therefore, let's dismiss this report that, would give evidence.
As you say, there are so many different kinds of aerial phenomena that by standardizing it, they could limit someone's ability to actually report what they saw, because there isn't a box there for this extra information they want to add. Or if there is, it'll just be any other comments and it won't be searchable.
Yes, there's that. We're getting some really interesting comments in the chat, by the way. Paul makes it good, that a witness statement would be hearsay. I get that. And Captain Quinn has said that's one eyewitness, but how many people would have to make it real data? And when you do have eyewitness accounts from literally hundreds of people in some cases, I'm thinking, the Phoenix Lights as an example. There's the interstate one that we did recently. Literally hundreds of people, including lots of police officers. But all you're getting is a visual sighting. Quite often these things don't show up on radar. When it's there and obvious and being seen by a lot of people, there's that. It's hard to say. Yes. On page 3, then, coming back on this, it does say that there are a number that are not natural atmospheric phenomena. They're not airborne clutter, and I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. Airborne clutter. Debris?
Yeah, well, airborne clutter on page 5, it says these objects include birds, balloons, recreational unmanned aerial vehicles, or airborne debris like plastic bags that muddle a scene and affect an operator's ability to identify true targets, such as enemy aircraft.
Okay, fair enough. So there are a number that are not airborne clutter. They're not natural atmospheric phenomena. They're not US items. They're not foreign adversary items, systems they call them. So if it's not natural, it's not clutter, it's not of US origin, and it's not of a foreign nation origin, and there are some that fall in this catch-all other bin, as it calls it, what else could it be? I mean, that I find a bit of a smoking gun. They also go on to say on page 3 that UAP clearly pose a safety of flight issue and may pose a challenge to US national security. Now that strikes me really strongly of someone gearing up to have a common enemy. Rather like Farage did in this country before Brexit. Oh, look, you've got a common enemy. These people are coming over, taking your jobs. Now it's going to be, oh, well, these aliens, they're coming over here and, causing near misses. It's a threat to national security.
Oh, well, they're always going to say that. I mean, there was a Guardian, a report in the Guardian about this report, and it was saying that that the Pentagon have spent an awful lot of money on things that haven't really given any benefit. I'm just going to find where it said it, but huge amounts of money on. Was it the F-35 aircraft? Billions on that, trillions on the war in Afghanistan, which they're now just returning home from, and the Taliban appear to be taking over. They need to justify a new budget. They need to. The Pentagon is always going to be coming up. They will always come up with a threat aspect, but a threat could also be at a much more mundane level. Someone flying a drone near an airport. That's a threat. It's not a weapon, but it's something that could cause people to die. Yeah. It's an unauthorized aircraft.
Well, that's fair enough, but we know that the language you use with the public, with the general public, is vitally important. And looking into the language that's used by these people when they make these statements, by politicians in particular, usually betrays their true intentions.
Well, we have a political economic system that pretty much requires an enemy for our governments to justify their existence. If there was no perceived threat, if they can only get away with what they get away with because they will claim, well, they're protecting us in some way. And that's. I mean, on your recommendation, I watched Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, where a chap called Simon Greer, who's got a bit of a bee in his bonnet, to say the least, is determined that the US government is, if we need to form a world government, a single world government, we need to have an external enemy, and he believes that we've been programmed for years to see UFOs as dangerous, as a threat. Mm-hmm. How many sci-fi films are there where the aliens invade and wipe us all out? I don't think that is part of any centralized program. What I think that is that once makers of horror films in Hollywood and Britain and elsewhere had kind of run out of all the various options for Dracula and Frankenstein, or whatever, they said we need a new monster, and suddenly in 1947 you got the Roswell incident. Oh, flying saucers! They came from outer space. Let's make aliens the new monsters.
Yeah.
I think it was. I don't think there was a concerted program to say, no, we need to get the public ready for the idea that if anyone comes from another planet, they've come to destroy us, and we need to be ready to fight.
Well, you only need to look at the fact that at the height of the Cold War between America and Russia, you've got Gorbachev and Reagan, and they agreed. I mean, it's in a signed agreement that if the planet is threatened by aliens, they will set aside their differences and work together. That's in an actual signed document between the two of them. So yeah, this boogeyman, this must have an enemy to fight against. It's definitely a political strategy. Now, I'm conscious we're running way over time at the moment. So, anything else, sort of like skipping ahead through the rest of the document? Anything else? I think
we might have to do this again. Probably, but
well, I'm going to draw your attention to a statement on page 5, where it says a handful of UAP appear to demonstrate advanced technology. In 18 incidents described in 21 reports, observers reported unusual UAP movement patterns or flight characteristics. And it goes on to talk about them remaining stationary in winds, moving against the winds, maneuvering abruptly, or moving at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. So I find it impossible to believe that, given the level of spying that goes on across different countries, given the surveillance that happens, especially now we've got satellite surveillance going on all over the place, that a single country can be so far technologically advanced as to be hundreds of years beyond anything that the US have got, anything that China claims to have. I mean, what is it, Wakanda? I mean, is that what we're talking about here? Because I just find that really, I just find it impossible to accept.
Sorry, I've just got to close my door. It's suddenly getting noisy here.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm still recording.
That's okay.
Right,
So this concept that a country is hundreds of years in advance of us technologically, I don't accept it.
I don't think many people would argue against the idea that the United States is probably the most technologically advanced country in the world. They wouldn't expect the Russians or the Chinese. I mean, they've come up with some tricks before, but they're not expected to produce technology that is the next generation that makes American defenses redundant.
Okay.
It's always been the other way around.
This report says specifically that there are UAPs out there that are way technologically more advanced than anything that the US has got. It's here. It's in this report. So if that's not extraterrestrial, or the phrase that we like to say, otherworldly, if it's not that, then what is it? And Joe, on that note, it's probably a good time for us to do our summary. And thank you for joining us, Ben. It's been absolutely amazing. And do come back and watch the video on demand for our summary. But yeah, we'll definitely, hopefully, do more live streams in the future, but we'll be talking about that later on. So let's summarize how we feel about this. I mean, it literally came out yesterday. It is only 9 pages, fortunately. So we have had a chance to sort of have a good look through on it. What do you think, Neil? Is it a total smoking gun?
As you say, there are those things, there's little things tucked in there. Oh yes, we have seen some UAPs that we can't explain. And that seems to be mainly the focus on it. That a lot of this stuff, it's not us. We're saying it's not our advanced technology. It's not someone else terrestrial. It's not a rival, a military rival that has somehow developed technology that outclasses ours. And I lost my thread a bit. It's neither of those two things. But we have seen some things in the sky that we're going to talk about. All the clutter in the sky, balloons and plastic bags and bits of debris and radio controlled aircraft. But yeah, there were these few things we saw.
Weather balloons.
Yeah, weather balloons. Yeah, whatever. Or party balloons. Yeah, they. But they just make some mention. Oh yeah, there are these craft that we can't explain. And that's, it's kind of tucked in there, isn't it? I think as we discussed, a lot of the departments are just concerned about the threat from a potential terrestrial rival. Yeah,
I'm inclined to agree with you. But I think it's done in quite an insidious way. So I know that, so our regular listeners will know that a theory that I keep coming back to time and time again is that we as a society, as a culture, are being prepared for contact with extraterrestrial beings. And I'm gonna say that for me, this report is a further step along that path, because let's face it, 20 years ago, the whole UFO thing, and I know because I've been there, I've had the piss taken out of me a lot over the years. It was treated as a joke, and you had, governments and armed forces and all the rest, treat the whole thing as if it's one big joke. Now, here we are, years later, where it's being taken seriously by scientists, by governments. They're not admitting, oh yes, aliens are here, but you've had this ramped increase in acceptance that there is definitely something going on. And it's just heading so much in that direction that, one day they're going to say, and here's the aliens. We're so on a trajectory, and a rapid one, a very rapid one towards
I'm
that.
not so sure. Ty says, yes, deployed plenty of weather balloons, and I can tell you they look nothing like UFOs. That a pilot seeing a weather balloon would know, so, oh yeah, that's a weather balloon. It might not be where it's supposed to be, but it's a weather. I know what a weather balloon looks like.
But when you go and look at Roswell, and of course the Air Force themselves reported a crashed UFO, and the next day, oh no, it was a weather balloon.
Well, I'm going to go.
So it must be easy to
lefty.
misinterpret.
Yeah, I'm going to go all lefty, and I don't think it's the powers that be who are preparing us for an encounter with extraterrestrials. They say that we can't tell people about the existence of UFOs and ETs visiting our planet from other worlds because there would be mass panic. I think the only people who would panic, well, would you panic? Would you panic if you're suddenly told we've been visited from other worlds? The people who would panic
I'd shit myself.
Are the small numbers of people who are running the planet right now who are suddenly going to be told, you're redundant, we're taking over. The gravy train has reached the buffers. I think they're the ones who...
I have to say, and this might surprise some of our regular listeners, I find the whole idea of UFOs and extraterrestrials absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, but as Ty says, I wouldn't panic. What would you do? You're sat here and someone says, we've been visited by extraterrestrials. What are you going to run into the streets screaming and keep screaming for... just keep doing that? Or what? You might think, oh, shit, yeah, I'm terrified. And then you think, well, actually, what does this mean? People panic. Panic is a short-term reaction to something immediate. If you just, people don't panic.
Well, this plays into actually my theory, because if 50 years ago you'd suddenly announced, oh yes, aliens are real and they're coming and abducting people and there's not a thing you can do about it, yes, you would have had mass panic. If it was to happen today, I think you'd still have some panic, but nowhere near as much as you would have done 50 years ago. Nowhere near as much.
I don't get this whole thing.
Being prepared.
Yeah, what I'm having trouble understanding is what mass panic looks like in the long term. Just because people have been told, I can understand people fleeing a city because it's being bombed. Yeah, that would be a panic. But if you're just told something,
okay, I can tell you what mass panic would look like in this instance: storming of government buildings. Riots, looting, you'd have mass suicides, all things like that. I think they would still happen today, but not perhaps to the same extent as they would have done some years ago. But that's a whole other topic. Do you know what? Yeah. I'd like us to do an episode on a kind of a what if, a hypothetical scenario. If aliens were to land tomorrow, how would we react as a society? I think that'd be a good episode for us to do down the road. Captain Quinn, I'm right with Captain Quinn. Grab his towel, because he's a hoopy fruit who knows where his towel is. One for the Hitchhikers fans there, of which I am one. Yeah, Ty says, mass panic equals no toilet roll. It's very, very true.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you panic buy. Yeah.
And Paul makes a very valid point that humans have a condition where we see what we want to see. Is absolutely true, and we interpret it that way. Do you know what? If aliens were to land tomorrow on the White House lawn, somebody somewhere would claim it was fake.
Oh yeah, I think that's my job on this podcast, isn't it?
But there we are. So, as we always say on this show, do let us know what you think. Obviously, we've got people letting us know in the chat what they think, and that's absolutely great, and loving reading all that. But of course, people of the future listening to this or watching this down the road, you can get on our Twitter or Facebook page by searching Aliens Explored and let us know there. Shall we remind everyone about our competition again before we give our very, very exciting news, Neil?
Yes, let's do that.
So our competition, if you missed it earlier, is all to do with the amazing artwork from Simon Brumat that he did for our podcast, and specifically about the grey alien standing sort of between and behind us. There, we get a better look at him just over there. He needs a name. We have never given him a name to this date. So if you email us at aliensexplored@gmail.com by the 25th of July this year, 2021, just in case you're listening to this down the road, and give us your best name for, I keep calling him, that's them. Because we don't know.
Them.
We don't know if genders apply to grey aliens. Them.
We don't.
I think that them is a them and they. So yeah, let's have your best name for them. Let us know what you think, and the best answer that we gets to win a T-shirt like Neil and I are posing in today. So
that won't stand up too far.
We are. Fantastic, with our ugly mugs and the grey alien on that you will have named. So there we go. Shall we give out our very, very exciting news, Neil?
Let's do that. Yeah.
So
are you going to?
Yeah. No. Well, do you want to tell everyone, or
is this about our next episode?
No. So we've been keeping this secret for so long now. Neil's still trying to keep it secret.
Yes.
We've been. You
can trust me with your secrets, because I'll just forget.
Well, we've been talking for a little while about doing something a bit bigger than just this podcast, and we've actually started talks with a filmmaker, and we are going to be doing a documentary off the back of this podcast, aren't we, Neil?
We are, yeah. Let's see how much money we can get.
Dozed off there. It's less exciting to us because we already know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be doing a podcast specifically on my favourite topic, crop circles. So I'm going to be proving to Neil that they are not man-made. Well, obviously some are man-made, but there are plenty of non-man-made ones out there, aren't I, Neil?
Are you going to prove it? I mean, is my role in does my script just say, Neil mutters what a load of bollocks, and Neil refuses to leave the pub because it's raining?
Well, we'll have to see how you react to what evidence I can put forward to you as we go through. Plank and bits of rope. Well, I mean, that is how the man-made ones are done, absolutely. However, there are many that are not man-made. There are attributes to what I term genuine ones that cannot be recreated by people. But you'll have to either listen to one of our previous podcasts about crop circles for that, or because we've done 2 now, haven't we, Neil?
Yes, we have. Yeah,
we did an early one and then an update, or of course, watch the documentary when it's out. I mean, it won't be out for some time. We're just in early discussions. Aren't we, Neil?
Aren't we? Yeah, we're looking next year, earliest.
We are.
These things take time.
They do, but we will be keeping you updated as we go through the podcast. So there we go. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed it.
Me too. Absolutely. It's our first outing, really, isn't it? It's been great fun.
It is. It's
and with wonderful responses. I really enjoyed interacting with our crowd.
Absolutely.
Do we call them our posse, or is that a Radio 1 thing?
That's definitely our explorers. There you go.
Our explorers.
That's a good name for our listeners, I think. Our explorers.
Yeah. Our explorers. Our fellow
really
explorers.
Fantastic. But no, Ty, it's not a new podcast. It's just it's kind of a one-off documentary that we're planning on doing. If that's successful, then we might do more documentaries on the back of that. But we'll have to.
We'd be foolish not to, wouldn't we? If it's successful, yeah. Let's one step at a time.
One step at a time. Absolutely. Well, this has been absolutely brilliant. Thank you to everyone for joining us. This has been just so much fun. Don't forget to.
I think we need to do it again sometime.
We will. Now, actually, in terms of live show, we were thinking we might do our 1-year anniversary special, which is not that far away. When is our 1-year anniversary special?
It's a few weeks from now, isn't it? That's
30th of July. Yeah, we might do that as a live special. We will have to see a bit nearer the time.
Tyler thinks our episodes aren't long enough. We could make them long with this. There's the tendency to get distracted and to go off topic, but.
Indeed. Yeah, and actually research shows that half-hour episodes are kind of the ideal length. So that's what we aim for. We don't want to get boring and drone on too much. So, on that note, do join us next week when we'll be obviously returning to our normal format with weekly podcasts. Our next one out on Friday coming, when we're going to be talking about a very controversial figure in ufology, aren't we, Neil?
Controversial indeed, yes. Stan Romanek.
That's the man. So we will be chatting about him. Don't
controversial and
one.
Complex. Yeah.
I think that's very fair to say. Very fair indeed. So yeah. So thank you all for joining us. This has been an absolute pleasure. In the meantime, keep watching these brilliant Twitch streams and the skies.
And I think I'm going to go and take Captain Quinn's 78's advice. Not the advice about getting a plank and some bits of rope. The advice about drinking 5 pints of bitter and eating some nuts. Which will be my practicing for panicking for when they come. And thank you, Tea Party Fox for commenting on my bigger credit to the core. Thank you very much. Very nice. Been lovely talking to you all.
Fantastic. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Aliens Explored is a Figo Films production in association with Juicy Falls. Music by Darren Mafucci and editing by Stu Jackson. Find us on Twitter and Facebook by searching Aliens Explored or visit aliensexplored.com.